So today here I'm going to give you an example in what transpires in a brief story of an untraining of an elite athlete, which I would consider elite by all standards that I've dealt with. So an athlete in this particular case had no stress response. Basically what I had was a collegiate female athlete that spent 4 years of training in a very stress-based program. Now, what transpired after the 4 years was obviously started with national team training after 4 years of pretty amazing results in the collegiate program. And when I say crazy results, I'm saying let's give you an example. At a body weight about 132 to 135, she hit a 365 single leg safety bar squat. Single leg safety bar squat. Okay. So those were the crazy results that I consider. Now, basically going to the national team, she completed roughly about 10 performance tests with the national team, and she'd been going back and forth a number of times because she was borderline, and was able to at least get accepted to camps and go to some tryouts. But the tests after 4 years of college were pretty good, and there was roughly about 10 of them. So then the athlete asked me afterwards, the national team asked her to do the training program of the national team, and I said, no problem, come to my weight room. I actually had people work her every day out to make sure she was implementing the program because she hadn't done it before, a number of the exercises. And so then I actually got my Omega Wave system on her, and what I found after her weight program was basically no parasympathetic response. Now, why is that important? I'll explain it in the next 2 slides. So basically, I have a training stimulus. This is not quite right, and this whole thing is actually not quite right. But we'll talk about it for simplistic reasons. You get a little training stimulus, and then when I say, which is a sympathetic response, and then the next thing is there's a parasympathetic response for you to recover, and then you basically supercompensate and work out again. This is the typical stress response. What I saw actually with this female athlete was the red line. So the green line is the typical training stress response. Here is the actual red line. So there was no recovery and no need for her parasympathetic system to be activated. Why? Because she didn't stress enough here. So if you have no parasympathetic response, no action in the body, chemical reactions for recovery, a reaction from the heartbeat, okay, that I would test with the heart rate variability, guess what? There was no training effect from the program. So let me give you this example. The program that was used was basically a functional based program with some conditioning. And here's the example. If you matched up the program that was used with her compared to the other one, you basically had 365 pound or a 355 pound safety single leg bar squat at a body weight of 135 was replaced with 20 pound kettlebell swings in her program. That's what traded out her program. So you can see how this would be a very stressful response, and this was a very minimal, the kettlebell swings. And what transpired was the results from this functional based program was that all 10 testing numbers over that 3-month period got worse. And that'll not always happen, because I've seen testing programs where the coaches test the very specific lifts that they're doing in the program. So they do usually get better if that's the case. I don't know how you wouldn't, because you're practicing the test. But the best testing programs, or the best programs, if you don't complete the test and get better, and you get great results, then you know you've got the training effect that you wanted. Now, remember, the biggest difference is that there was no, in this athlete, from switching to a high intensity program, you'd see the green line, then you switching to a program where there was no stress response, basically too light of loads, lack of stress, you'd get this. Now, what I actually saw sometimes is when she did the conditioning and the training together, we'd get a little bit of a response, but there wasn't much. And And then when you did them separate, she got no response out of any of them. Now, here's the catch on this. You have to understand that if there's no parasympathetic response, there's no adaptations either. So the adaptations are key in the off season for training, and that's what this particular athlete didn't get. So there's my story of a untraining of a elite athlete.